大家好，欢迎回来三少天地。今天我很荣幸呢，就是邀请到一位我们的好朋友。这位好朋友呢，他的名字叫 Jack Akerman。那他是在这个美国的斯坦福大学毕业的一个高材生。那他是被当时候17岁呢，一位天才儿童从哥伦比亚那边就是请过来这边读书念书得到这边的学位，然后呢，在这边发展的一位犹太人。那也是多代的犹太孩子，他的 family 是从这个希腊那边移居过去哥伦比亚，那也是父辈全部一系的都是在这个犹太那边下来的延伸下来的他们的这个子女，所以呢他比较清楚现在这个犹太还有Palestine 就是这个两边的一个战争，两边战争呢里边有一个conflict， 给他们可以让他给我们来做一个解释，来做一个就是分析那现在社会的这个动荡。Thank you, Mr. Akerman. Thank you for being to our show from SinoTV. I want to give you a warm welcome and to all the audience. Let's let you talk about the conflict right now with Israel and Palestine. Tell us a little bit about you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm currently working as a mechanical engineer here in the Bay Area. I came about 5 years ago from Colombia, where I grew up my entire life. Then came over here for Stanford to study. Ended up doing a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and master's in mechanical engineering too.
We have already talked about your background. I think a lot of people understand the history of the conflict of both countries, and how they developed over the last 100 years, how they developed the wars between each other. Before we start getting into those conflicts, I just want to let more people understand the lifestyle of Jewish people.
I'm sure you've seen the very religious Jewish people with like black hats, whether that's in New York or in Israel or where even anywhere, and that is a very observant part of a very observant group of Jews. But there are lots of other Jews that don't dress like this and don't do a lot of the things that the more observant ones do.
Does the Jewish community, doesn't matter where they are, like you're from Colombia, do they keeping very tight connections with each other, like almost everyone knows everyone, or do they don't really know anybody?
It's not like, so when I came here, for instance, I came from Colombia to here, I didn't really know anyone. So I asked the rabbi in the community in Colombia to like put me in touch with the rabbi here. So that way I could go and meet people, join this community. So it's not like everyone knows each other, but there is very much an ease in which you can become part of the community through these like lots of the heads of communities. So you can reach out to a rabbi and he can put you in touch with the rabbi there. So that's often the case.
Tell us a little more about the conflict between two countries.
Okay, so let me start where this started in the last couple of weeks. So when this started, when the first rockets were fired, maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, what had just happened are two things. The first one is the leader of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, who is of the Fatah party and has been in power since 2004, 2005, even though he was only supposed to be in power for 4 years, and he's still completing that 4-year term, which is, so in other words, he's kind of appointed himself somewhat of a dictator. His elections were up, and he decided to cancel those elections. This really angered two groups of people. First, the people, because a lot of surveys have shown that the people prefer Hamas over the existing party of Fatah. So they would have probably elected Hamas, and that really angered them because they weren't able to do that. And it makes sense that they were angry because they were, they wanted those elections to be able to choose their government. I think it's horrible that they wanted to choose Hamas because, again, those are terrorists, and it's very disheartening, again, that we're not moving towards kind of a peace and some sort of middle ground, but kind of moving towards the extremes. And then the other group it really angered was Hamas because they thought they would be in power. But Fatah canceled the elections, and then Hamas probably got a little sparked by that. And they were also making the most out of what was happening in Jerusalem. I'm sure you've heard of the Sheikh Jarrah displacements, we'll call them that. So over the last 50 years, there's been this problem in the courts of Israel where so a little bit of history is in 1948, when Israel was established, half of Jerusalem was divided in half. And that meant that some of the Jews that were living on the wrong side of Jerusalem for them had to move to the right side. And in 1967, during the Six-Day War, when Israel was attacked by a lot of its neighboring enemy countries, but was able to conquer land from them. In lots of wars, there's always this they want to conquer land and protect itself. Jerusalem was unified again, and it all belonged to Israel then. And a lot of these people wanted to go back into the houses they used to have before 1948. A lot of the Jews that used to live on the other side. So there's been this problem, but there were Palestinians living there, right, from 1948 to 1967. So there's been this problem of who actually owns that because of this problem of who had it first and who had it later. So it's been in the courts for 50 years. I don't know if it's been in the courts for 50 years, but it's been disputed for 50 years, and it's been in the courts for a long time, for several years now. And the decision was going to come soon. So I believe that Hamas made the most out of this tension as to what was going to happen, and they made the most out of the opportunity to spark some violence in Jerusalem, spark some anger, spark some movement, some riots, and then use their rockets and the violence coming from Gaza at the same time to give it momentum. So that's what started it all, in my opinion, and that's how I understand the situation to be.